Hi, welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm Great Scott.
Hey, Scott!
If you're new to this channel, please check out our other videos, but what we do here is free to play and champions that everyone has access to. Champions like rare champions, campaign farmable champions, daily login champions, champions you can buy from the clan shop and from the tag team bazaar. If everybody has access to them, we're going to use them here. We don't use any high-end legendaries or epics that you need to pull from shards and get lucky to pull them. We want everybody to be able to clear all the content with free champions. So let's take a look at our faction wars here, because it looks like we have Knights Revenant open, and I'm not doing very well in Knights Revenant. I think I've only gotten to stage 13, which is fine because at least it gives me the legendary materials, but I really need to do better. I got to get all the way down to stage 21, and that's going to be a challenge. Let's take a look at the faction crypt and see who's available in this faction for us to use. We don't have any mythicals that are free. We don't have any legendaries that are free. We don't have any epics that are free. I mean, even though I have a couple of Sinesh's, Doom Priests, I've got a Skull Crown, Kitus, I've got all of these awesome epic champions, I can't use any of them because they're not free to everyone. So if you can't get them, I'm not using them. So that leaves the rares. Basically, everybody's going to have all the rares at some point in the game, and the only hard ones to get are the void rares, and I try not to use too many void rares when I do these kinds of things. Let's pop into a couple of great champions, and believe it or not, Knights Revenant has some pretty great rare champions. They all have something a little unique and a little different, so let's go through them together. First one is Executioner. I love Executioner. He is a fantastic champion. He is campaign farmable, but his kit is great. His A1, when you book it up, it's going to have a 30% chance of placing a stun. Well, that's awesome. You can put him in a stun set, and he'll get an extra 23% after his masteries of landing a stun. So you get two calculations there that have a good chance, well, an okay chance of landing a stun. His A2 is awesome. This decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 20%. So it's an AoE, decreases their turn meter, which means it slows them down, and has a 50% chance of placing decreased speed for 2 turns. So the turn meter reduction slows him down, and he has a chance of 75% when booked up of placing a small version of decreased speed on him, which also slows him down. He attacks all enemies, so if you put him on a stun set, some of those enemies are bound to get stunned, so that's going to slow them down. So he is great for crowd control. He's really, really useful. His A3 is also pretty useful because he throws an increased defense buff on himself and a counterattack. So what happens is they'll hit him, or they'll hit your whole team with an AoE or something, and he'll come back with his A1, which has that calculation of getting a stun either from the skill or from the stun set. So I really like him in a stun set. He does kick off quite a few stuns. Those two calculations I believe are independent. I'm not sure which calculation comes first, but when you put him in a counterattack and he gets hit, he's thrown out stun after stun after stun, especially if the entire team is throwing AoEs, the enemy team. He's going to be counterattacking and potentially stunning each attacker. So he's great. He also puts defense in all battles by 17%. I don't know if this is our best aura in this particular faction, but we'll look at some others. He's definitely a possibility. I like him. I think he should make the team just because of the crowd control. I also like Thurgist. Her A1 fills a random ally's turn meter by 10%. That's cool. She also has a chance, 100% when booked, of putting block buffs on an enemy. That's cool. Her A3 puts increased defense and increased attack, both small versions, on all allies for 2 turns. I like this because some of my champions are defense-based champions, some of my champions are attack-based champions. So this kind of gives you the best of both worlds, and it puts it on all your allies. So I like it a lot. It does overlap with some of the other champion skills here, so we want to kind of keep an eye out for that. I'll show you in a minute. She also increases resistant and faction crypts by 30. That's okay. There's probably a better aura out there for us. But I like it because I try to lead off with increased defense and increased attack at the beginning of every round because it's useful. Even though there's small versions, it's still better than nothing. Then we have Magus. Now, Magus is good on her own. She doesn't really do much for the team. Her A1 has a chance of placing stun, which is a 50% chance. One enemy, throwing a 50% chance of stun on there. You can make it even better if you put her in a stun set, because you get those two calculations like we were talking about on Executioner. She also has a 75% chance of placing, booked up to 100, of placing a big version of poison on all enemies for 2 turns. Now, that's better than it looks, because it's not an attack. So if you're fighting enemies that have counterattack on, she's not actually attacking them. She's just giving you a way of applying some damage to them without them counterattacking you. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. It's a good skill. It's worth having. Then on her A3, she attacks all enemies, then heals herself. The amount which she heals is equal to the damage inflicted. That's practically going to be a full heal every time. So if you're AoEing 4 or 5 enemies and you're hitting them for critical hits plus regular attacks, even weak hits, she's going to heal for all of that damage. So basically every 4 turns, she heals herself up completely. She's useful. She doesn't do a lot for your team, but she's very useful on her own. She increases speed in arena battles, doesn't help us in the faction crypts, and I doubt you're ever going to use her in arena, so that's kind of useless. So that's Magus. Then we have Coffin Smasher. Coffin Smasher's been on my teams for Clan Boss, ever since the day I got him. The reason is because he's got the big version of Decrease Attack, and it's a 3-hitter. So you put him in Giant Slayer, and he's throwing out Giant Slayer procs, and he's reducing the attack of Clan Boss. He's great for that. He also is a hit point burner. Now, it's a rare burn, which means it's not as damaging as an epic burn or even a legendary burn. So someone like Drexthar, his burns do way more to the clan boss than what Coffin Smasher's burns would. But at least it's something, and when you get to that last boss in the faction crypts, or any boss in the faction crypts, if you can start putting burns on them, it's very useful. So the chance goes up to, what does it look like, 75% chance of placing the burn. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing the decrease attack times 3. You're pretty much going to be landing these every time. And then, of course, he decreases the damage enemies inflict with AoE attacks by 5%. A little bit of damage reduction, never hurt anybody. He's a hit point based champion, so give him a little bit of speed, give him a little bit of defense, and a lot of hit points, and he'll be doing a great job for you. The only problem with Coffin Smasher is he's built for Clan Boss. He doesn't do a great job on the waves. And that can be an issue, because we really need to clear those waves if we're going to progress in the faction wars. Arcanist. I've had Arcanist forever, and she's done a great job forever. So as soon as you get her, do I build her out to 60? Well, I'm still hemming and hawing on which Knight Revenants I build out to 60, because I don't know. They're all good in different ways, and I haven't really put together that synergistic team yet to figure out which ones are the best. I've got a lot of them at 40s and a lot of them at 50s, but I don't know which ones I want to take to 60. I haven't made that choice just yet, so we're still working on it. That's part of the reason why we're only up to stage 13. On our A1, has a chance to place and sleep. Don't care. Doesn't matter. As soon as somebody else hits them, they wake up anyway, so it's not very good. However, she's one of the very few champions in this faction that have a heal, and it's a big heal for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. She's useful to keep around just for that heal, even though she may not provide anything from her A1. That A2, every 3 turns, it's worth healing everybody up. Then she increases the attack and crit rate on all allies for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. That's weird. It's good for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. So there's a lot of turns available that you have this increased crit rate and increased attack. Now remember what we were talking about on Thurgis. She has increased attack and increased defense. So these kind of will overlap. And if you're smart, or if you're lucky, you're going to wind up having increased attack on all the time. There's never going to be a turn where you won't have at least increased attack on. Sure, you're going to go a turn without increased defense, and you might go a turn without increased crit rate, but between Thurgis and Arcanist, if they're on the same team, you're always going to have that increased attack. She also increases defense in arena battles, doesn't help us in faction wars, and I highly doubt you're going to be using her in arena either, so that's kind of a useless aura. Gladiator, love Gladiator. He's one of the people that he's so conditional. This A1 gets me every time. So he attacks twice. and he's got a 30 booked up to a 50% chance of placing the big version of decrease attack for 2 turns if the target's turn meter is more than or exactly 50% full. So if they're about to go, he's going to place the decrease attack. If their turn meter is low and they're not about to go, he has a 50% chance of placing the big version of decreased speed for 2 turns if the target's turn meter is less than 50% full. So if they're about to attack you, he places the decreased attack. If they don't have half turn meter yet and they're not about to go, he's going to place the decreased speed. Now, it's not a great chance. It's only a 50% chance, but that's still good on an A1. So I like him, but that's very conditional. And sometimes it's confusing for people, like, who do I attack? Well, check their turn meter, because that's going to determine which debuff you're likely to apply, and then there's only a 50% chance of applying that. So it's tough. It's tough. Then as A2, he attacks 2 times at random with a 100% chance of placing stun if the target's turn meter is above or equal to 75%. So like we were talking about on his A1, if they're about to go, we're going to wind up decreasing their attack. On this one, if they're about to go, we have a 100% chance of placing the stun. So you got to watch those turn meters and figure out which skill you want to use at the appropriate time to maximize his kit. Then, of course, his A3 is just an AoE on a 4-turn cooldown. Nothing special, no debuffs. I don't think I would go for a stun set on him. I think I would just go for lifesteal or something to increase his attack, because he's placing a lot of these things based on his speed. So make him fast, make him stay alive by giving him lifesteal, make him hit hard, and he'll do well for you. But very conditional champion, very difficult to use. You've got to be paying attention. This is not an auto situation here. Then we have Acolyte. Also like Acolyte, as you can see, there's quite a few good skills and good kits in the Knight's Revenant, but none really stand above all the rest. So we're about halfway through the champions here, and they're all good so far, and they all have a use. So this guy is a speed demon. His base speed is 104, which means he's going to be going really fast. But in addition to that, his A1 fills his turn meter by 25%. So you can get him going just blazing fast. If you got him over 200 speed, and every time he attacks he fills his turn meter by 25%, he's just going lightning fast. He's going to have like 2 to 3 turns on every other champion because of his A1. In addition, if you decide to use his A2, he has 90% chance when it's booked up of decreasing the target's turn meter by 50%. So not only are you speeding yourself up by 25% in your turn meter, you're reducing their turn meter by 50% when you attack somebody. So he's going fast and he's slowing them down. This is very useful against the bosses, because some of those bosses are subject to turn meter manipulation, and that's something you actually use to your advantage. And then on his A3, also very useful, removes all debuffs on all allies. That's on a 4-turn cooldown, which is kind of long cooldown. I wish it was 3 turns, but his kit is really good. So Acolyte might wind up making the endgame team. And of course, these guys are all arena auras. Never going to use those. He's never going to be in your arena team, so it doesn't really make any difference. Very fast champion. Speeds himself up by turn meter increase, slows the enemies down by turn meter decrease, and he's got an all-ally cleanse on a 4-turn cooldown. He's definitely somebody to look at when you're trying to figure out what team to put together for Knight's Revenant. Then we have Guardian. Guardian's actually on my team right now. I don't know if he's going to stay there, but he's a tough guy. He is really tough. He's a hit point-based champion, and he's got a really defensive kit. He attacks an enemy, and he has a 50% chance, booked up to 65% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs on the target by 2 turns. That's really good. If you've got somebody with unkillable, somebody that's block damage, you got somebody in retaliation, have Guardian smack him with his axe, and he'll decrease the duration of all those buffs by 2 turns. Now, the great part about it is most buffs don't have more than a 2-turn length on them. So 2 turns is enough to completely strip the buff. Now it's only going to be a 65% chance, but that's still great on an A1. The next A2, he attacks 4 times at random, and each hit has a 30% chance of applying block debuffs. It only goes up to a 35% chance, but 35 times 4, that's that's a pretty darn good chance. That's over 100%. So it's likely that you'll be applying a block buffs debuff on your enemy when you use this skill. But it's a 4-turn cooldown. It's a long cooldown for an A2. His A3 places block debuffs and counterattack on himself for 2 turns. He also places continuous heal on himself for 2 turns. So this is a way for him to keep himself alive by putting a heal on himself, and you can't debuff him, so you can't stun him, you can't sleep him, you can't poison him, you can't do any of that stuff. When you do attack him, he's going to counterattack. Well, he's going to counterattack with his A1, which means that he's going to start stripping those attackers' buffs just by having counterattack on. So he's really a good champion. I like him a lot. Right now he's on the team. I don't know if he's going to stay there. Like I said, they increase ally hit point in dungeons by 27%. That's completely useless in the factions crypt. So we saw a lot of auras that are just junk, but we're seeing a lot of champions that are actually really good. Crimson Slayer. A lot of people use Crimson Slayer in their Fire Knight teams. She's actually pretty good at that. She's got a 3-hitter on the A1. We don't care that it's placing sleep. She has a 70% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter, but that buffs up to 100% chance. You can book that up to 100% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 50%. And it's going to fill her turn meter equal to the amount that the target loses. So let's just pretend, for math's sake, that the Fire Knight or whoever you're fighting against has 100% turn meter and they're just about to go. She's going to take half of their turn meter away and give it to herself. So potentially, if she's fast enough, she can go again before the Fire Knight fills his entire turn meter bar. This would be very useful at the end of each of the faction crypt when you get to that boss, because you can actually decrease that boss's turn meter so he's not, fearing you, so he's not doing any of his other skills. If you can keep him going slow enough, you can catch up and just, beat the crap out of him and win the whole thing. But on her A3, she has heal reduction. It's a 100% chance, but it's on an AoE. So that's pretty good if you've got some of those annoying waves that keep healing themselves. Heal reduction is great. Now it's only 50%, so what are you going to do? But it's better than nothing. And she increases attack and faction crypts by 17%. Well, that's another mediocre aura. I don't know if we'll be using that one, but it depends on who we put on the team, right? Now, surprisingly enough, for an attack-based champion, her defense is 980. If you look and compare her with some of the other rare champions in this category, 980 is huge for an attack-based champion. 980 is still pretty high for a support champion. So she's got good survivability, and she's got decent damage. Her hit points are really low at 13,000, so she might be difficult to keep alive. So that might be one reason why we may not necessarily use her in the faction crypts, but she does have a really good kit. Torix, he's kind of a new guy. I like him. On his A1, he's got a leech. Now, it's a small chance. It's a 45% chance of placing that leech. But he's a defense-based champion, and this is based on defense. And anytime you have an A1 that can place a leech, give it a shot. He also has an AoE, and he increases his own defense, small version, on all allies. So he increases defense on all allies, which is a small version of it. But he's a defense-based champion, so his own defense goes up before he attacks all enemies. So that's actually going to help. And he has a 45% chance of placing a provoke debuff. That's buffed up to 65% when you book it. So 65% chance of placing a provoke, which is good, because if he's provoking them and they attack him, he goes into his A3. His A3 passive counterattacks when he's hit by an enemy under provoke. So you're placing a provoke here, they're going to hit him, and then he's going to go into his A1 with a counterattack that could apply leech. So this kit synergizes with itself pretty darn well, assuming that you're placing these provokes. So he's got an AoE with increased defense on everybody. He's placing provokes. He's counterattacking when he's hit by anybody that he placed a provoke on. And then, of course, he's going to be putting leech on that enemy when he counterattacks, hopefully. The active effect on this is a block damage for 1 turn if the incoming damage exceeds 20% of this champion's max HP on a 4-turn cooldown. So, if this active effect is triggered, and I say triggered because you don't use it, it just triggers. So if somebody hits you for 20% of your max HP, yes, you're going to put a block damage for 1 turn, but you're going to lose the counterattack on your enemies with provoke. So you want to build him really high hit points and really high defense so that this doesn't trigger. And I guess the only place where it could trigger would be like on the boss, but if it's a boss, you don't care about the provoke anyway, because you're not going to be provoking the boss. So it's okay to trigger when you're fighting the boss, but it's not okay to trigger when you're fighting the waves, because the cooldown is so long. It's a 4-turn cooldown. Increases ally defense in dungeons by 25%, still doesn't help us in the faction crypts at all. Then we got Renegade. I would not use Renegade for faction crypts. I'm just going to say it. You need all of your people to be alive, and there aren't any revivers, and Renegade tends to kill herself. So she attacks an enemy, and she has a small chance, maybe a 50% chance of placing heal reduction for 1 turn. She has a 3-hitter on her A2 with a 50, 60, 75% chance of placing decreased speed. And she'll place a decreased accuracy if the target has any active buffs. So she's probably going to be placing both of those, or at least a good chance of placing both of those. But then here's where you get in trouble. She'll decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 2 turns. That's great. This champion will receive damage equal to 30% of her max HP. This will happen even if it kills this champion. So you want to be careful using this because it's a 5-turn cooldown and it could kill you. And if you're dead, you can't 3-star this faction. So, I don't know. I don't really like that skill for factions. It's great for clan boss. It's great for some of the other areas that you use her. The unkillable teams, I mean, she's essential for those unkillable teams. But yeah, not so great for faction wars. So build her up for a different reason. Don't necessarily build her up for faction crypts. She does increase ally resistance in all battles by 40, which is probably one of the best in this category. I don't know for sure. I don't use her. I don't even have her, to be honest with you. But I think it's very dangerous if she casts that A3 and kills herself, because then you got to start the run all over. You won't get 3 stars. Daywalker. Daywalker places an extra hit if the target has more hit points than this champion, which is likely the case. So he's going to be 2-hitting on his A1 most of the time. He places an ally protection, small ally protect, on all ally first 2 turns. And he also places a block debuffs on himself for 2 turns. Then he removes all debuffs from this champion. Well, that's actually pretty good. So it's on a 3-turn cooldown. He's protecting everybody with a small version of ally protect, which is good because he doesn't have a ton of hit points. So if he takes all that damage, he'll die. So a small version of ally protect is enough to protect your teammates without killing yourself. Block debuffs and cleanse, also great things to have on him when he's doing that protection. So it'll cleanse all the weakens, it'll cleanse the decreased defense, it'll cleanse a lot of those things. So you can use this pretty frequently, and it's good. But let's say he does get killed. It will revive this champion with 30% hit points, and then he's going to attack all enemies after being killed. This hit cannot be critical, but that's okay. It's an AoE. So if you put him in, I don't know, say you put him in a lifesteal set, and he's going to throw this AoE out there, it's going to heal him up pretty well following his death. Now, is it going to fill him full? No, it's not, because it can't be critical, so you're not going to be putting out huge amounts of damage, and he's a hit point based champion, so he's not going to be having great multipliers on his damage, but he comes back with 30%, and after the AoE, you might have 50%. So it's a good one to have just in case you're getting close to the end and he dies. Well, guess what? He's going to pop right back up again. That's a lot of turns, so don't plan on using it more than once in a fight. He also increases all the allies' crit rate in the arena by 21%. Again, another arena aura. We don't care. It's not useful at all in the faction crypts. Centurion, he is a one-man fighting machine. He heals himself up and keeps himself alive. It just keeps going and going and going. So I like him a lot. His A1 heals himself by 15% of the damage inflicted. His A2 heals himself for 30% of his max HP and then puts a small version of increased defense on him for 2 turns. And then he exchanges remaining hit point levels with a target enemy, then equalizes the hit points of all allies. So I haven't done a lot of testing on this, but I think this actually could be worse. So let's say he's getting low on health, and you have an enemy who's pretty high on health, and you go ahead and swap hit point levels with the target enemy. So that gives you almost a full health bar. This is going to equalize the hit points of all allies. So I don't know if this brings down the highest and brings up the lowest, and somehow everybody winds up with a mediocre health bar somewhere in the middle, or if it raises everybody up to his level, but it doesn't say his level. It doesn't say the highest level. It doesn't say his level. It just says equalizes the hit points of all allies. So I don't know how useful this could be, because if I swap hit points with somebody else, I want everybody else's hit points to come up to mine, and that would be ideal. But if they don't, I swap hit points with somebody else and it brings my hit points down, that's not a great thing either. So gonna have to figure out how to use this guy, but he has so much self-heal on him. It's just amazing. He's just an army by himself. So he's actually a good one for the faction crypts because he can keep himself alive. He is a defense-based champion. All of his damage is based on defense, and he heals himself based on damage inflicted and on his max HP, which is a huge heal. 30% of his max HP heal on himself on a 3-turn cooldown, that's pretty awesome, especially since he's putting increased defense on himself for 2 turns out of every 3 turns. So I really like these first 2 skills. It really helps keep him alive, and you have to have everybody alive at the end if you want to have 3 stars. So said my piece about Centurion. We'll try maybe do some testing on that A3 to see if it's actually useful or if we want to just shut it off. And then we have Ashwalker. I don't like Ashwalker. I know a lot of people do. I don't like him. His A1 attacks an enemy, and he resets the cooldown of his A2 if it kills an enemy. He's not killing too many people, so I don't see that happening and triggering that often. So Devastator, he attacks an enemy. He's got a 65, 75, 85% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn, and it decreases the turn meters of all enemies by 10% if it's critical. Alright, so you're reducing the turn meter by 10% of all enemies. That's a pretty small reduction. And it stays on a 4-turn cooldown. You can't even book it to a 3-turn cooldown. So you've got a stun on one enemy, and if you build him out with full critical, he's going to be taking down turn meter by only 10% on the rest of them. So that barely gives you an advantage. And I say barely because 10% is not a lot of turn meter reduction. 50% is a lot. 100% is a lot. But 10% is not so much. Then on his A3, he attacks all enemies. He's got a 100% chance when booked of placing Weaken on everybody for 2 turns. This one's useful. This one is on a 3-turn cooldown. Surprisingly enough, his A3 is on a 3-turn cooldown, where his A2 is on a 4-turn cooldown. That's a little screwed up. That's a little mixed up to me. But anyway, so putting an AoE, small version of Weaken out there, that's worth it. But, I mean, not enough to justify bringing him in here. He's an attack-based champion. He's only got 10,000 hit points at level 60. He's only got 800 defense at level 60. He's not great to bring in. I mean, Crimson Slayer had better stats. So it's one of those things you want to keep an eye on him. I'm not in love with him. I don't think, if I had to say this person doesn't make the team and I had to select some of them, I'd say Ashwalker probably doesn't make the team. He's too hard to keep alive. He doesn't have a useful kit for everyone. All he's bringing is an AoE weekend and a stun on one enemy, maybe, if he gets a critical. So, I don't know. He increases speed in all battles by 12%. That's probably one of our better auras in this faction, but not enough to justify bringing him in. Plus, he's void, and not everybody's going to have access to him. So I'm kind of like poo-pooing him. He's not the worst champion in the world, but I probably would say he doesn't make the team. So let's take a look at who I have in my kit, in my champion selection, on who could potentially make the team. And I'll scroll all the way down to our nice Revenants. Here we go. Okay, so it starts here at Coffin Smasher. I like him. I built him up. He's 60 because he's on my clan boss team. He's been on my clan boss team ever since I got him, just for that decreased attack and the burn. I've got our Arcanist. She's level 50. She's doing pretty well. I've got our Guardian. He's actually in a bolster set, so he can heal himself up and provide that shield in the beginning of every turn. I've got Executioner in a stun set like we talked about because I just want him to keep stunning people. I've got a Thurgis out there. She's in speed and I think this is defense. Resilience, hit points, and defense. So I want to keep her alive and I want to keep her going fast. And I also have a Centurion that's only level 40. I have a Magus level 40. I've got an Ashwalker level 40. Got a Daywalker level 40. I've got an Acolyte level 40. I've got a Gladiator level 40. I've got a Torix level 40. 2 Torixes level 40s. I got a Crimson Slayer level 40, and I haven't decided if I'm using any of these guys yet because none of them have any gear on them. Some of them may be better than the crew that I have right now, but we'll see how they do. Now, part one of every Faction Wars is basically showing you how to go from stage 1 through stage 10. And so here we are in our faction crypt. And if we go all the way from stage 1 to stage 10, I was able to keep all my guys alive. Now, do I have all level 60s? No, I don't. In fact, it was a struggle to even justify getting some of them to level 50 because I wasn't even sure if I was going to use them or not. So if we go to stage 10, you'll see that I have resistance and faction crypts by 30, so we got a little extra resistance. I've got my Arcanist. My Coffin Smasher is level 60. Nothing I can do to take that away. He performs fine. I don't think he's really skewing the results because he is a level 60. Chances are you'll have one guy who's level 60 in all of these when you start up. Mostly you're going to have 50s, but I don't think Coffin Smasher really changes the game at all because he only hits one guy at a time, and he only throws down decrease attack and a hit point burn. So he's not really wiping out the waves is what I'm saying. So he's not really skewing these results. He would be doing the same job if he was level 50, and we would still be able to do this with all level 50s. So let's make a run, and then we'll move up in the levels and see where our challenges come in. Because if we try level 14 and we still can't beat the boss, then we know something terrible's going on. So we do have a shield set or a bolster set on our Guardian. And I did have was it Stone Skin on my Arcanist? I think so. It's just to add some extra protection because she was dying. It's not a good Stone Skin set. It might not even be Stone Skin. It might be protection. It might be a protection set. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Oh, it is Stone Skin. Okay. So you can see she's got her Stone Skin on. It's only for one turn. Nobody even hit her by the time it wore off, so it's better having the bolster set on for 3 turns so that everybody gets that protection. It doesn't look like anybody's really having any issues. They're all built pretty solid when it comes to defense and hit points. Remember, 2 of the champions in here are hit point space champions, and that's Gladiator and Coffin Smasher. And Executioner's a defense-based champion, so Thurgis being a support champion, I think Arcanist is the only attack-based champion, so realistically they're all beefy. They're all pretty tough, so they could take a beating. Like they're taking a beating right now. My my defense-based champion just died, so that was funny. But they're still going to have no problems finishing this, and I don't even think my Executioner got any stuns off, which is surprising considering he's got 2 versions of stun on separate calculations. But if you're just trying to get past these levels, 1 through 10, this team will do just fine. Even if you had a Coffin Smasher at level 50, this particular team's good. It's not to say this is the best team for it, and I'm surprised one of my toughest, beefiest champions was the first to die. I would have thought Executioner would have been the last to die, but that's okay. We're still going to pass this, no problems. You just do it enough times, you'll pass it with 3 stars. In fact, what I'll do is probably not even use up my keys here. I'll probably end the battle. We win. It's like one more hit, and we'd have taken it, so that's not a problem. Let's go a little higher in the stage selection. Let's go to stage 13, where we can get some of those legendary materials. Now, this is a much harder fight, and so I don't know if I'm going to win on auto. I know I've won, many times on manual because I tell them what they should be doing, but I don't know how good they're going to be on auto here. So let's see. We've got 2 of the retaliations up. And we should be throwing some stuns here, and we should be reducing some of those buffs. But if nothing happens, if RNG is against us, then we'll be in trouble here. Well, there we go. So Guardian decreased the duration of the heals on one of those lava guys. I forgot what they were called, magma something. So he took the heals right off of him, so that makes him easier to kill now, and we don't have to worry about it. I'm kind of disappointed that Executioner is not stunning anybody. It's like he should definitely be stunning people. But keep in mind, we're up against 131 level. Some of them are epics, and we're only level 50, so we're doing okay. would actually love to strip that unkillable. I mean, heck, I'd love to strip the retaliations that they've got on there. So hopefully Guardian can do something. Yep, strip the unkillable. That was very helpful, and so now we should be able to kill him before he gets another chance to cast it. That's why I think Guardian is actually somebody I'm considering putting at 60 for this team, so we can get a little further. I happen to believe that if we got all level 60s on this team, we'd be able to go right to the end. But it's tough to say because just those extra levels on Thurgis, she may not be tough enough. Just those extra levels on Arcanist, she may not be tough enough. I know Guardian will be tough enough. I know my Coffin Smasher's tough enough. And I think at level 60, my Executioner will be tough enough. But I don't know about those other two, because she's getting her butt handed to her pretty fast here. She's like, what, down to a quarter hit points now? Oh, getting lower. And they're not too bright. They should not be attacking the guy who has retaliation on, but they do anyway. I have no idea why. Alright, last round. Boy, that third just sure is suffering. She needs more beef. She needs more defense. She needs more hit points. Maybe at level 60 she'll do better, but when we get up into 18, 19, stage 20, they hit really, really hard. So I don't know if we can get her enough hit points and defense to be able to weather those storms. But I do like Guardian stripping those buffs. I'd like it if he stole them, but he doesn't have to steal them. Just stripping them is good enough for what we're trying to do. I may need to build him with some more accuracy so it happens more frequently, because right now it's like a 50%. Maybe not. I might not even have him booked out. He might be just base stats doing 30%. But we'll see. We'll see after the run what we've got everybody wearing. So not too different from our level 10 run, and this is level 13. We lost one champion through the fights. No big deal. I like that perception stuff. So let's see if we can maybe do stage 14, and if not, how close can we come? I don't think you've even tried it, to be honest with you. And apparently the stone skin is completely useless on my Arcanist, because she goes way too fast for it to make any difference. But unfortunately, our Arcanist is the only person capable of healing our team. So if she goes down, there goes our healing. Yeah, I love that buff stripping on Guardian. Hopefully he can strip that unkillable. Yeah, it looks like we're going to probably lose our two squishy characters. There she goes. Well, we still got our healer, so hopefully that will help us in the second and the third round. But I have a feeling she's going to bite it in the second round, so she might not be around. We'll have to do the boss battle with only three champions. Yep, there she goes. Alright, it's down to my three beefy champions. See if they can do what it takes to win this. So I think the only way of healing back up is going to be Coffin Smasher's Lifesteal, because he's in Lifesteal gear, and the 10% regen that you get from the bolster set for Guardian. So I think once Executioner takes some hits to the face, he's never coming back. I'm not sure stun set is the best for Executioner. I mean, maybe I should put him in another bolster set. But who knows? Maybe regen set. We'll have to figure that one out as we go along. Like I said, I'm not even 100% sure he's going to make the team for the end game. We're just kind of playing through and seeing how each of these characters perform, each of these champions perform, and if there's any tweaking we want to do. If somebody gets cut from the roster, they're clearly not going to be going to level 60. So we want to make sure we pick the right champions before we invest the resources to get them to 60. But I have a feeling no matter who we choose, when we get all 5 to level 60, we shouldn't have any problems getting through level 21. Alright, let's see what happens. I don't know if Coffin Smasher's going to survive. Well, Coffin Smasher's down, and now it's just down to Guardian. He's got some good resistance, and he can block debuffs, and he's got retaliation there. We'll counterattack and see how well or how poorly he performs here. At level 50, he's holding his own. So I'm wondering at level 60 if he'd be able to win this fight by himself. So even if everybody else dies, is he strong enough to carry us to the end? It doesn't look like he's able to heal himself up enough, and it doesn't look like he's able to provide enough damage output to kill the ads or to put a huge dent in the boss. At level 60, he might do better, though. So I'm considering keeping Guardian in there just because of the buff stripping. Yeah, it doesn't look... I don't have confidence that he's going to win this. I'll probably just end it here. And we'll take a look at the champions. We know that they can do 1 through 10. We know they can do 1 through 13, which is probably the most important thing. So you want to do this in stages. Getting to stage 7 is your primary goal. Okay? Because once you can get to stage 7, when this crypt opens up, there's the quest, beat a Faction Wars boss. Well, you got to be able to beat stage 7 in order to beat that boss in order to get that quest. So you want to start by building champions strong enough to do stage 7 in each one of your faction crypts. If they can 3-star stage 10, you're doing well, but the next step really isn't until stage 13, because stage 13 is where you get 3 to 4 gems, runes, whatever they're called, and then you get the legendary materials. The legendary materials are really what you're after when you farm Faction Wars, so that's what we're looking for. Let's see. Stage 14 obviously is going to be a very hard level. I think stage 15 in most faction crypts is easier than stage 14. Even stage 16 is sometimes easier than stage 14 on most faction crypts. But our steps go 1 through 10, 10 through 14, 15 through 21. And typically, if you're going to go 15 through 21, you've got to have more than one level 60 on your crew. Otherwise, you're just not strong enough to be able to take that out. We only had one level 60, and we weren't strong enough to take out level stage 14. But if we have 2, maybe 3 level 60s, we might be strong enough to go pretty deep toward stage 20. So let's take a look at those champions, and we'll look at their gear in depth, and give you an idea of how you might want to build your champions. Even if you don't choose the same ones I have here, that's okay, because it's about what works for you. And honestly, this isn't really working for me either, because I wasn't even able to beat stage 14. So my Coffin Smasher, he's got lifesteal, perception. I want him to be able to land those decreased attacks. I want him to be able to land the burns. I got speed on the boots with some accuracy, a little bit of crit rate. I've got accuracy on the chest with some hit points, because remember, he's a hit point based champion. I've got hit points on the gloves. I don't think I necessarily needed him in crit rate. Now, he may do better in crit rate. Let me think about that, because if he hits criticals more often, like he's got a 3-hitter on his A1, he may be stealing more life back because he'd be doing more damage from the criticals. That may be worth more than 50% hit points. I may consider that, so I might switch this out for a crit rate glove, because his crit rate is crap. I mean, you can see the number down there; it's terrible. So yeah, we might think into that a little further and maybe get him a crit rate glove instead of a hit point. Got some accuracy and some speed. I was lucky enough to get a double roll of speed on that shield. We got some speed and hit points on the helm, and we've got some accuracy and some hit points, a little bit of speed on the weapon. His ring, just hit points, a little bit of defense to kind of keep him alive. Hit points on the amulet. Now, this may do better at crit damage if I put a crit rate glove on him, so I may consider that. This does have 12% crit damage on it. It's only a 4-star, but I don't know. It's kind of a useless amulet, to be honest with you. I've got a lot of amulets here. I'm see if any of these other amulets are any better. That's attack. There's a crit damage amulet with 1,000 hit points, which is almost the same number of hit points, plus more accuracy. So even already that would be a better amulet. There's a crit damage with accuracy on it as well. There's a crit damage. Oh, that one gets a shield after attacking, but it's an attack. We don't want that one. Here's a crit damage. Probably is going to have some accuracy and some resist on it. Another crit damage. Some more hit points and accuracy. I think even that would be a better amulet than what I'm using. Considering I don't have any crit rate on him, the extra crit damage on the amulet isn't really worth it. So I have accuracy on the banner as well, because I want him to have high accuracy against that clan boss. This is going to give him some defense. We don't need the attack. The attack doesn't help us at all. I guess I was just leveling this up for a different champion at the moment. Total stats on Coffin Smasher, 53,000 hit points. He's a hit points based champion, so that's a good thing. Attack doesn't matter. Defense is only 1,500. I would love this to be 2,000 defense. 25 would be even better. But I guess with the stats that I'm currently pushing, it's not quite going to get me there. So I'll have to swap some of that stuff out. So maybe when I put a crit damage and a crit rate on the glove and a crit damage on the amulet, I might be able to finagle some of the defense numbers up a little bit to get him a little more survivable. 176 speed is fine. Like I said, his crit rate is nothing. So if I can get his crit rate to 100% or even close with some crit damage, I think he'll do much better. He'll be critting a lot, he'll be stealing the health back, and he won't die nearly as much. He's got 372 accuracy. That's probably overkill, to be honest. I think he's pretty much landing everything, so I could cut back on the accuracy maybe to 250, and he'll still do just fine. But I wanted to make sure he landed his decreased attacks every time he could, and I want to make sure he landed his hit point burn every time he could. So I may reduce the accuracy a little bit. Maybe I'll get him a hit point chest and just lose that accuracy. The hit point chest will give him more hit points, which will give him some more damage. Maybe I could get him some crit rate out of it too. I don't know, but we'll be checking that out after the video's over, so you can see that his helm is a 4-star, his amulet is a 4-star, got a lot of blue on his gear, not any legendary gear, and only a couple, 3-4 pieces of 16, but none of it's ascended. So I mean, it is what it is. Just random, normal gear. He's not even built the best. I've got better gear for him if I wanted to rebuild. And I should, because I'm having trouble with level 14, right? So on Arcanist, we've got Stone Skin, which gives her some hit points, some resistance, some defense. The Stone Skin at the start of the round for one turn is pointless, because she goes before, and she loses that turn anyway, so there's really nothing to help her here as far as the Stone Skin goes. It's just the gear I decided to put on her. What she got on her weapon, a little bit of resistance, a little bit of speed. On her helm, she's got some hit points. 17% hit points on the helmet. It's pretty darn good. She's got a little crit rate, little hit points, little speed. This is a 4-star glove. It's a defense glove. That's odd. I don't know why I put that on there. Maybe it's all I had at the time. She's got a defense chest plate. Maybe that's why she lasted longer than Thurgis, because she has so much more defense. Then, of course, a speed boot. She's got defense on her ring, plus attack, plus hit points. That's actually a pretty decent ring for a Knight's Revenant. It's got a little bit of everything that you're going to need. Defense on the amulet, keeping her alive. And I don't know what I would probably put maybe hit points or maybe defense on the banner, because, well, she doesn't really need accuracy, so we got to find something else to put her in. She's not built terrible for a level 50. She's got almost 30,000 hit points, 1,200 attack, 1,600 defense. She runs 167 speed. Of course, no crit rate on her. She's not really a damage dealer, so I'm using her more as a healer and a buffer than anything else. And like I said, she doesn't really need accuracy because I don't care if she lands the sleep. We knock the sleep off of her as soon as we attack the enemy anyway, so it's kind of a useless skill. So not running accuracy is actually a good thing on this particular character. But 176 resistance, that's going to keep her from getting stunned, it's going to keep her from getting provoked, things like that. So she'll be able to throw that heal on, because realistically, this is what I use her for, is to throw the heal on and then increase attack and crit rate on everybody. So that's my Arcanist. And then Guardian, he is in my bolster set, and he is in resilience, gives him some more hit points and some more defense. On his weapon, he's got some hit points. I don't know why, just a bad roll to get some attack on there, but that's the bolster set I had when I put it on him. 14% hit points, that's a pretty darn good helmet. We've got some resistance, we've got some hit points, we've got some defense and some speed. Those are all the substats that we want on a shield. Defense on his gloves, he's got some accuracy and some crit rate. I need the accuracy to be a little higher on him because he needs to really be able to swipe those buffs, and so he needs accuracy for that, and my accuracy is not even 100, so that's pretty low. I need to respec this guy and get him some better stats. Resistance on his chest, a little bit of speed on his boots, a little bit of hit points, a little bit of defense, a little bit of resist. On his ring, he's got defense with a trip roll, a flat hit point trip roll. That's okay, I don't mind. I like the defense. He's got defense percent, he's got hit points percent, he's got flat hit points, defense on the main stat. He's got defense on the main stat for his amulet. Nothing else is really useful. Maybe 30 for his resist is okay. And on his banner, I'll probably do hit points or defense or some combination thereof, because you know what? I should be doing accuracy on his banner because I want him to strip those buffs. So I think his banner is going to be accuracy. That'll put me up over 100. I mean, I'm not going to do it right now because he's not level 60. I'm pretty sure he's going into the final team because he is so tough and it is so useful to have this stripping. Now, if I booked him out, I could have 65% chance instead of 50, and if I got him some actual accuracy, he wouldn't be missing on those times it does trigger. So he probably would be a lot more useful booked out with the extra accuracy. So I may respec him, but as you can see, he's not. His gear is not super awesome gear. It's just what I had, and his stats are not where they need to be, and we're still able to do 1 through 10 with no problem. Now my Executioner, he's in stun with accuracy. He's got a lot of accuracy, so I'm pretty happy about that. However, he didn't really lay out those stuns like I was hoping he would. So he's got some hit points, some accuracy, some crit rate on the weapon. He's got some crit rate, crit damage, and speed on the helm. Nothing's enchanted. All of these things need to go up. His speed needs to go up for sure because he's a very slow champion at 89 base speed. He's got some accuracy and some crit rate, a little bit of defense. On his glove, he's got crit rate. I think he's pretty close to 100% crit rate, which is kind of nice. He does have some hit points, defense, speed, and accuracy on the glove. Those substats, a lot of substats there, pretty good there. He's got accuracy on the chest with some flat hit points and defense percentage. The boots are speed with some hit point percentage. So he's buffing out pretty nicely, and I think at a level 60, the increase in base stats would be enough to make him formidable. Because I think he did die on level 10, which was kind of strange, but yeah, that's just where he is. On the ring, we've got flat hit points, but a double roll of defense, and that's actually really good. That's 19% more defense. That's probably helping to keep him alive because his defense is kind of low. We got some accuracy, some flat stat hit points. That's not great. I probably could do better. Maybe even re-rolling that amulet would do better because it's not a great amulet, but double roll of accuracy is pretty good because his accuracy got up there to 282. So 26,000 hit points, 1,600 defense. He is only running at 126 speed. I wish he was running at 150, 160, 170, somewhere in that area. He'd have a lot better chance of landing more stuns. 91% crit rate, poor crit damage output. He does have a lot of accuracy, so what I should do is I should put an accuracy banner and then change his chest to defense, probably, and that would make him a lot more survivable. Plus, getting him to level 60, all of his base stats will start like at 15,000 hit points. He'll be like a little over 1,000, maybe 1,100 defense base stats, and so all of these percentages for defense and for other things will scale off of that higher base stat. So he'll be a lot tougher at level 60, a lot tougher. Then we got our Thurgis. She's just basically speed, speed, speed. I want her to go around as fast as we can. She's going to fill somebody's turn meter by 10% every time she uses her A1. We don't really care too much about the block buffs. We do need to keep the increased defense and increased attack up on everybody, but she is not... I don't know that she's necessarily going to make the end game. I don't know if I want to invest the resources getting her to level 60. Her stats are not fantastic, her base stats anyway. She's got some resistance on her weapon. She's got some defense on her helm. She's got a double roll of speed and resistance on her shield. She's got defense gloves with, nothing much else there, just defense gloves. She's got resistance on her chest plate with some accuracy, some hit points, and some speed. Those are all good substats for her. And she's got speed on a 4-star boot, but it does bring some accuracy and some hit points. She's not terribly fast either. She's faster than Executioner, that's for sure. But she's not terribly fast. This is a double roll of defense on a defense ring, which is good. This is accuracy and resistance on a hit point ring. We look at her stats. Her base stats for defense is 615. Ouch. That's terrible. So even though I have percentages, double rolls of percentages, she's struggling to get her defense up. So I had to use a lot of resources to get her defense anywhere near where she doesn't die right away. And like we saw, she was the first one to die in that last run. She's got 28,000 hit points and 1,600 defense. She is running at 174 speed, which is pretty good. We like them to be fast. No crit rate, no crit damage. She's got 227 resistance and 127 accuracy. Like I said, I don't care about the accuracy too much. Maybe what I should do is, just buff her more into health and resistance, or more into flat defense. Man, if I had a flat defense chest or a flat defense glove maybe, I would be doing much better, because defense percentage on such a low base defense it's not giving me much. I'd be better off with a flat stat on this particular champion. So those are the 5. Like I said, I've got a Centurion sitting on the wayside. I've got a Magus. I've got an Ashwalker, which I probably won't be building out anymore. I won't be using him. Daywalker, probably not. I may use the Acolyte. He's pretty decent. Gladiator, probably. Guardian is the one that I like the most, not Gladiator. He's okay. We talked a little bit about him. And then, of course, we've got Torix, which is going to provide us with the Leech. He may be very useful in the end game, but I maybe not use Crimson Slayer. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along, but at least you know how to get through 1 through 10, and even 1 through 13 if you're there. So, if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And if you have some comments or suggestions on the next videos, please leave them in the comment section. I do read those. So until next time, bye-bye.